Assalamu alaikum. So let's start with the second lecture from the remaining part. Today our topic is elements of cost. So elements of cost consist of direct materials, direct labors, direct expenses, and fourth, factory overhead. Or we can say that there are three elements of cost: materials, labor, and expenses. These expenses are also written as overhead cost. Overhead cost is what? That is aggregation of indirect materials, indirect labors, and indirect expenses, or the sum of indirect materials, indirect labors, indirect expenses are called overhead cost. So three main elements of cost are materials, labors, and expenses. Further, these are classified nature-wise as a like material. So material divided into two portions: direct materials and indirect materials. Labor, so direct labors and indirect labors. Expenses are overheads. Expenses, so direct expenses and indirect expenses. Indirect expenses and the sum of indirect expenses, indirect labor, and indirect material, combinedly this is called overhead cost. So one by one we are now going to explain the elements of cost. Materials is the main elements of the cost of the production. So there are two types of materials: direct materials and indirect materials. Direct materials, all those materials which can be part identified with the products, that is called direct materials. Or we can say that those materials which are the dominant part of the finished goods, that is called direct materials. Direct materials are the direct or major parts of the finished products, dear students, and that can be easily traceable in the finished units. It also including primary packing material as well as. What is primary packing materials? The finished goods which are packed for the safety purpose. So that is called packing material, just like in biscuit. So they are covered in a wrapper, and after that they are covered in the packaging of the paper thing. So the direct materials are what? That are those materials which are the essential part of the finished products, or they can be, from that the products can be identified. Those materials are dominant part and identified parts of the finished form. For examples, table. So table and tables, direct material are wood. Similarly, cloths, direct materials are what? In shirt, direct material are fabric or cloth. Like in manufacturing of vehicles, so aluminiums, tires, seats, these are what? These are the direct materials which are using in manufacturing of vehicles. Second one, indirect materials. Indirect material cost material which can't be allocated or identified, but which are to be observed by the units produced. Or we can say that all materials used for ancillary purpose in product and which can be convertly assigned to a specific physical units are terms as indirect materials. For example, in table or chairs, wood is direct material, but the screw that are used to tighten it, the glue that are used to tighten it, these are not dominant parts. When look at, if someone told you about the tables or chairs, so automatically the concept come in your mind that this will be consist of wood. That will not come in your mind that the chairs will be made of glue or the chair will be made of screw. I will take the example of your notebook. So in notebook, direct material is the paper and indirect material is the gum which is used to tighten all the pages. Similarly, oil, grease, consumable stores just like nut, bolt, printing and stationery, etc. These are what? These are the examples of the indirect materials like lubricant, glue, thread in shirts, nails in shoes, etc. Look at shirts. So shirts consist of cloth, buttons, and of thread. So when you say that my shirt is of button, made of button, no, you say that my shirt made from cloths. So cloth is the dominant part. Button is also the dominant part. So these are the direct, this is called direct materials, while the thread from which it is made, which is sewing by the tailor, so that thread is that is indirect material. Similarly, the fuel which is run a machine, so those fuels we don't see, that is not the dominant part. So that's why this is called indirect materials. Clear? Now the second one element of the cost is labor. Labor does not means the common laborer, common people which are working in the business. Labor is defined as the wages paid to workers. Labor means workers. Workers may be board of directors, managers, similarly of the lower level as well as. So direct labors is defined as the wages paid to workers who are engaged in the production process directly and whose time can be conveniently and economically traceable to that finished goods units of the products. For example, wages of workers working on the products. Look it, I'm delivering you the lecture. So I am the direct labor. But the upper level management is not a direct labor. Head of department, dean of the faculty, coordinator, that is not direct labor. Why? They are not directly linked with you. Similarly, you get the services of the doctor. So doctor is direct labor. You make a sketch on a civil engineer. So civil engineer is a direct labor. So all the labors which can be identified with the products, they are directly involved in the productions of the products manufacturing process or as well as by providing services. Are all those labors expending in converting the raw materials to desirable finished goods? So those labors are also called direct labor. For example, the personnels which are directly involved to convert raw materials to finished goods. So such personnels are called direct labors. Indirect labor. So indirect labor are those employees which are implied, are those labors which are employed for the purpose of carrying task incidental to the goods or services provided as the indirect labors. It can't be practically traced the specific unit of output. For example, wages of the storekeeper, foreman, timekeeper, managers, supervisor, superintendent salaries. So these are what? These are those personnels which are not directly involved in the manufacturing of a products as well as are providing some services. So indirect labors are those personnels, are those wages which are not directly involved in the productions of the product as well as in providing services. Examples are, again I am giving you the examples, like in university, finance department. So finance department is not involved to provide the subject wise or education wise services. Your teacher is directly involved to provide you the education. They are another side, back doors, they are helping the system. So management department, finance department, similarly marketing departments, all these personnels are indirect labors. But Your teacher is direct labor. Dean of faculty, coordinators, head of the departments, these are what? These are indirect labor. Overhead cost, these are also called expenses. Next one element is expenses, and expenses are further divided into two categories. Dear student, one is called direct expenses and second one is called indirect expenses or overhead. So direct expenses here that are not mentioned, but later on I will type it for you, that direct expenses. So direct expenses, just a minute, I will enter now. So now direct expenses, these expenses incurred on a specific cost units and identifiables with the cost units. Such expenses, that is called direct expenses. Look at, for example, we want to construct a home. So we hire an engineer, and through by that we made a sketch. So the payment that should be made to him, that is direct expenses. Another example are cost of special layout. We make a special layout for a specific work, for making of, let's suppose, for producing some goods. So we make a special layout. Those special layouts payment comes in the direct expenses category. Similarly, cost of the design. We are designing, and on designing, when some payment is made, like to make the design the shape of the product, so that payments comes which is specified for that special products, that is called direct expenses. Similarly, hiring a particular tools, fees paid to consultants. We have some problems, and we hire a consultants for advice purpose. So payment that should made to that consultants, that will be calculated as direct cost or direct expenses. Indirect expenses are, this is called overhead. So overhead, they taken place in factory. Overhead, they can also taken place in the office and also in the selling and distributions. So categorized wise, that is called factory overhead, office overheads, selling and distribution overheads. But we will generally, what is overhead? So all indirect cost, that is called overhead cost, or we can define as the aggregation of all the indirect cost, that is called overhead cost. The aggregate or aggregation of all the indirect cost is called what? That is called overhead cost. Like indirect material cost plus indirect labor cost plus indirect expenses. So the combination of all these three indirect heads, that is called overhead. What the CIMA, Chartered Institute of Management Accountant, they define the overhead cost, that the aggregate of indirect material cost, indirect wages, and it means that indirect labor, and indirect expenses. This is called what? That is called overhead cost. Like, look it, this is the formula: indirect material plus indirect labor plus other indirect cost. So yeah, indirect expenses is equals to overhead. So in factory, the indirect materials, the indirect labor, and the indirect expenses, that is called factory overhead. In office, the indirect labors and all the indirect expenses, that is called office overhead. And in selling and distribution, the salaries of the selling person, advertisement, etc., that is called selling and distribution overhead. Indirect or overhead are those expenses which can't be directly or conveniently or wholly allocated to the cost center or cost units. For example, I'm giving you the example of the rent, insurance, heat, power, light, depreciations. So all these are indirect cost. Here I use the two words, the cost unit and cost center. For example, we are constructing a building. So building is cost units, and where the cost is consumed, there is a need of the cost. So that is called cost centers. For example, we are constructing the building, so in building the rooms, that is the cost centers, and total building is cost unit. Similarly, for in the productions, the factory, the warehouse, the showrooms. In factory we make the manufacturing, then when finished goods are made, so we transfer those finished to store or warehouse, and from warehouse we transfer it to the showroom from where we sold out it. So all those expenses which taken place in factory, in warehouse, and in showrooms, and they are indirectly allocated. So now here the factory, warehouse, and showroom, that is cost centers. Cost center means the place where actually the costs are incurred. So these costs are not directly allocated. This is not possible that we can properly assign to the products or finished goods or finished units. So that's why that is taken as an indirectly. So overhead cost is what's all the indirect cost which are not readily or directly or conveniently specified or allocated, that is called overhead cost. Formula for to calculating overhead cost is indirect material plus indirect labors plus indirect expenses, that is equals to factory overhead. हाँ जनाब, उस राजूचे elements of cost shortly पश्तो के दरता उस explain कोम elements of cost zamang sara di three types elements of cost di material cost, labor cost or expenses. material cost بیا موږ په دوه حصو کې ډیوایډ کړی دي یو ته موږ وایو ډایرکټ مټیریل بل ته موږ وایو انډایرکټ مټیریل. لیبر ما هم په دوه حصو کې ډیوایډ کړی دی ډایرکټ لیبر اینڈ انډایرکټ لیبر او ایکسپنسز از آلسو ډیوایډډ په دوه حصو کې ډایرکټ ایکسپنسز اینڈ انډایرکټ ایکسپنسز. اوس ډایرکټ مټیریل کوم دی؟ ډایرکټ مټیریل هغه مټیریلز چې کوم د یو فینش ګډز dominant part دی essential parts دی او هغه موږ ته په نظر راځي امپورټنس زیات وي په هغه پروډکټس کې هغه ته سوایو موږ ډایرکټ مټیریل کاست. اگزامپل ما مخکې درکړ زه اوس یو اگزامپل درکوم. فار اگزامپل لیټ سپوز موږ وایو چې شرټ نو شرټ موږ دا نه وایو چې شرټ د څه نه جوړ دی د بټنز نه جوړ دی نه موږ وایو شرټ د کپړې نه جوړ دی د رخت نه جوړ دی ولی دا کپڑا that dominant part دی دی نو that is دغه شانت چیر یو ټیبل یو بیډ یا چیر مونږ وایو نو ډایرکټ زموږ په ذهن کې راشي چې چیر د څه نه جوړ وي د ووډ نه نو ووډ د دې ډایرکټ مټیریل چې حالانکه په دې چیرز کې مونږ میخونه یوز کړی دي ګلو مونږ یوز کړی دی چې دا کلب کی خو هغه چونکه ډومیننٹ پارت نه دی نو هغه مونږ ډایرکټ مټیریل نه کنسیډر کوو. انډایرکټ مټیریل څه دي؟ انډایرکټ مټیریلز هغه مټیریلز دي چې هغه د یو فینش ګډز ډومیننٹ پارټس نه دي. کلیر؟ ډومیننٹ پارت نه دی نو دیٹ از کالډ انډایرکټ مټیریل. اوس ایگزامپلز به مونږ څه ورکو؟ ایگزامپلز به مونږ دا ورکو چې لیټ سپوز یو چیر دی په چیرز کې یا یو نوٹ بک دی په نوٹ بک د څه نه جوړ دی؟ د پیجز نه جوړ دی پیج کاغذ نه جوړ دی او هغه پیجز مونږ په یو غم سره یا په یو ګلو سره چپکاو کړي یو ځای کړي دي نو هغه ګلو انډایرکټ مټیریل شو ولی هغه ډومیننٹ پارت د دغه پروډکټ نه دی. سیملرلی ګوره یو مارکر دی نو موږ مارکر وایو دا د پلاستیک جوړ دی ځکه هغه پلاستیک پکې ډومیننٹ پارټس دي. اوس په هغه کې دغه شته رنګ شته دغه برش شته چې په هغه باندې موږ رایټینګ کوو خو هغه رنګ یا برش هغه موږ انډایرکټ د هغه پارټس اخلو ایز ا هول موږ وایو د پلاستیک نه جوړ دی. دغه شانته لیبر نو لیبر هغه ویجز دي یا هغه کسان دي چې هغه په پروډکشن کې مستقیم یا غیر مستقیم انوالو دي. نو بیا موږ دوه قسمه ډیوایډ کړی دي ډایرکټ لیبر او انډایرکټ لیبر. ډایرکټ لیبر هغه لیبرز دي هغه کسان دي لیبر مطلب دا نه دی چې کوم لوور لیول کسان دي نه په دې کې ټول اپر لیول مینجمنٹ وغیرہ دا هم راځي کو اف دی آر. نو ډایرکټ لیبر بیا هغه لیبرز دي چې هغه ډایرکټلی په پروډکټس کې انوالو وي. کلیر؟ فار ایگزامپلز یو کابلر دی کابلر موچی هغه شوز جوړي نو کابلر چې کوم دی دا څه دی ډایرکټ لیبر دی. دغه شان یو ټیچر ډایرکټ لیبر دی ډایرکټلی په مستقیم ډول تاسو ته لیکچر درکوي. دغه شان ډاکټر ته تاسو لاړ شئ بیمار یې هغه په مستقیم طور تاسو ته خپل سروسز درکوي نو هغه ډایرکټ لیبرز کې راغلل. انډایرکټ لیبر څه وي؟ انډایرکټ لیبر چې هغه په غیر مستقیم په پروډکټ یا په سروسز کې انوالو وي. نو اوس موږ یونیورسيټي کې لیکچرز دا ډایرکټ لیبرز دي خو هیډ اف ډپارټمنټ شو ډین اف د فیکلټي شولا دا څه دي یا سپروایزر شو چې سپرویژنز کوي هغه انډایرکټ لیبرز دي. کلیر شولا؟ بیا ډایرکټ ایکسپنسز دا ایلیمنټس اف د کاست دي. نو ایکسپنسز هغه دوه حصو کې موږ ډیوایډ کړی یو ته موږ وایو ډایرکټ ایکسپنسز بل ته موږ وایو انډایرکټ ایکسپنسز. انډایرکټ ایکسپنسز یو بل نوم موږ ورته وایو اوور هیډ. نو ډایرکټ ایکسپنسز هغه ایکسپنسز دي چې هغه په یو کاست یونټ باندې راشي او هغه ښکاره وي. ښکاره مطلب سره چې هغه مونږ آیډنټیفاید کوي شو هغه مونږ ته شومنټ شو کیږي ښکاري نو داسې قسمه ایکسپنسز ته بیا مونږ څه وایو هغې ته مونږ وایو ډایرکټ ایکسپنسز. ډایرکټ ایکسپنسز څه دي؟ فار ایگزامپل لوکیټ زه مونږ وایو یو کلاس کې لیکچر ورکو د بهر نه आवाज راځي نو مونږ وایو چې یاره ساوند پروف کلاس جوړ کړو چې when we want to make a sound proof نو د هغې دپاره we hire a consultant چې what we should do او هغه مونږ ته یو آیډیا راکړي چې دا څیزونه دلته ولګوئ so then this class will be sound proof. هغه ته چې کوم مونږ پیمنټس کوو اوس دا څه دي دا په ډایرکټ ایکسپنسز کې زمونږ راځي. دغه شانتې کنسلټنټس یو پروډکشنز کوو او مونږ یو کنسلټنټ هایر کوو چې څنګه به بیسټ کوالټي پروډکشنز به مونږ کوو how we can make a good best quality productions. نو هغه ته چې هغه once time کوم پیمنټس کیږي کنسلټنټس ته هغه مونږ هغه څه کې راځي ډایرکټ ایکسپنسز کې they are coming in the direct expenses. دغه شانتې یو بلډینګ جوړو د هغې ډرایینګ او سکیچینګ کوو هغې ته کوم پیمنټس کوو that is also comes in the direct expenses. بل څه دي indirect expenses یا دې ته مونږ وایو اوور هیډ کاسټ. نو اوور هیډ په درې ځایونو کې کیږي. یو ګوره په پروډکشن ځای کې زموږ پروډکشنز کوو and another بیا موږ ویر هاوس کې هغه سٹور کوو فینش ګوډس او بیا موږ ځو هغه شوروم ته وړو. نو هغه درې واړه ځایونه کې انډایرکټ کاسټ راځي او all the indirect cost ته موږ څه وایو اوور هیډ کاسټ. هغه کو انډایرکټ میټیریلز دي کو هغه انډایرکټ لیبرز دي او all کو انډایرکټ ایکسپنسز دي. انډایرکټ ایکسپنسز کې examples is the rent munga we are paying the rent of the office, rent of the manufacturing unit, insurance of the company, insurance of the machinery, light, power, electricity, depreciation, etc. So all these the tool chikam they see the indirect expenses, the overhead that is also called overhead expenses. Formula is the indirect material plus indirect labor plus indirect expenses is equals to factory overhead. So hope you will understand, inshallah. We will continue from the upcoming lectures from the prime cost and conversion cost. For now, I will leave the class. Take care.